The grandfather clock in the marble foyer chimed 11 times, its deep notes echoing through the silence of the mansion. Alexander Hayes stood at his home office window, looking out at the manicured gardens that stretched toward the city lights. Beyond, the quarterly reports lay forgotten on his mahogany desk. Tonight, his mind was elsewhere. 3 months had passed since Emma Rodriguez had first walked through his front door, responding to his advertisement for a live-in nanny. Alexander remembered that day clearly. She had arrived in a modest sedan, her resume neat but brief, her references glowing but few. What struck him most was not her qualifications, but the gentle way she had knelt to meet his 18-month-old daughter, Sophia, at eye level, speaking to her in soft, musical tones. Alexander's world had been turned upside down when his wife, Carolyn, passed away suddenly from a heart condition just 6 months after Sophia's birth. The CEO of Hayes Industries found himself completely lost in the realm of midnight, feedings, diaper changes, and the mysterious language of infant tears. He had tried 3 nannies before Emma. The first had been too rigid, treating Sophia like a small business transaction. The second had been sweet but overwhelmed. The third had lasted only 2 weeks before deciding that caring for a grieving widower's child was more responsibility than she wanted. Then came Emma. She was 26 with warm brown eyes and an easy smile that seemed to light up rooms. She had grown up in a large family, the eldest of 5 children, and had helped raise her younger siblings after their father left. Her college degree in early childhood education had been earned through night classes while working 2 jobs. She understood struggle, and perhaps more importantly, she understood love. From her first day, Emma had transformed their house into something that felt like a home again. She filled the nursery with soft lullabies and gentle laughter. She introduced routines that made Sophia feel secure without being restrictive. Most remarkably, she never made Alexander feel inadequate as a father. Instead, she patiently taught him the things Carolyn would have shown him. Always with kindness and never with judgment. Alexander found himself looking forward to coming home in the evenings. The mansion, which had felt like a mausoleum after Caroline's death, now buzzed with warmth. Emma would greet him with updates about Sophia's day, her face animated as she described their adventures in the garden or their attempts at finger painting. She had a gift for finding magic in the mundane moments that make up a child's world. What Alexander didn't know was the sacrifice Emma was making to provide this stability for his family. The guest room he had offered her was beautiful, with antique furniture and a view of the rose garden, but Emma had quietly moved into the small storage room adjacent to Sophia's nursery. She told herself it was more practical, that she could hear Sophia better from there. The truth was more complicated. Growing up in poverty had taught Emma to be grateful for any roof over her head, but it had also taught her that good things could disappear without warning. The beautiful guest room felt too grand, too temporary. The storage room, with its single small window and concrete floor, felt more permanent somehow. It was a space that couldn't be taken away as easily. She had found an old camping mattress in the garage and made herself a simple bed on the floor. A small lamp provided reading light, and she had hung her few belongings on hooks screwed into the wall. It wasn't comfortable, but it was hers in a way the grand guest room never could be. Emma never complained. She arrived each morning refreshed and ready, her attention focused entirely on Sophia's needs and Alexander's busy schedule. She coordinated with his housekeeper, managed Sophia's doctor appointments, and even learned to prepare the simple, healthy meals that Alexander preferred. When he worked late, Alexander began to notice things about Emma that went beyond her professional capabilities. The way she hummed old folk songs while folding laundry. How she always saved the best pieces of fruit for Sophia, eating the slightly bruised ones herself. The gentle manner in which she spoke about her own family. Despite the hardships they had faced, he found himself staying up later, hoping to catch a few minutes of conversation with Emma after Sophia was asleep. These moments became precious to him. Emma would curl up in the armchair by the fireplace, and they would talk about everything and nothing. She told him stories about her childhood, about dreams deferred but not abandoned. He shared memories of Caroline, something he had not been able to do with anyone else. One evening, as autumn painted the trees in brilliant colors, Alexander decided to check on Sophia before heading to bed. The nursery was dimly lit by the small nightlight shaped like a star. Sophia slept peacefully, her tiny hand curled around the soft elephant that Emma had given her. As Alexander turned to leave, he noticed that the door to the adjacent storage room was slightly ajar. Curious and concerned, he peered inside. What he saw stopped him cold. Emma lay curled on a thin camping mattress on the concrete floor, covered by a simple blanket. Her few possessions were neatly arranged on makeshift shelves. A single book lay open beside her, its pages marked by a bobby pin. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way that contrasted sharply with the confident, capable woman who cared for his daughter each day. Alexander felt a wave of shame wash over him. Here was this remarkable woman who had brought life back into his home, who loved his daughter as if she were her own, and she was sleeping on a storage room floor while he lived in luxury just down the hall. But as he watched Emma sleep, Alexander realized something else. The shame was accompanied by something deeper, something that had been growing quietly in his heart for months. He cared about Emma in a way that went far beyond their professional relationship. She had not only helped him become a better father, she had helped him remember how to feel hope again. The next morning, Alexander was waiting in the kitchen when Emma arrived for work. She looked surprised to see him up so early, automatically reaching for Sophia, who was gurgling happily in her high chair. "Emma," Alexander said quietly, "we need to talk." She froze, and he saw fear flicker across her features. "Is something wrong? Did I do something?" "You've been sleeping in the storage room," he said gently. Why Emma's cheeks flushed red. She looked down at her hands, struggling for words. "I'm sorry. I know I should be using the guest room. I wanted to be close to Sophia and Emma." Alexander's voice was warm, not accusatory. "Look at me." When she raised her eyes, he continued, "You don't need to apologize, but I need to understand why you chose that room over the beautiful space I offered you." The truth tumbled out then, in halting sentences punctuated by long pauses. Emma spoke about growing up with uncertainty, about learning not to get too attached to places or things that might disappear. She talked about feeling like she didn't belong in spaces that were too grand, too perfect. She admitted that the storage room felt safer, more like something that was truly hers. Alexander listened without interruption, his heart breaking and swelling simultaneously. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Emma," he said finally, "this is your home. Not just a place you work, but your home. You belong in every room of this house as much as Sophia and I do." That evening, Alexander did something that surprised even himself. Instead of simply insisting that Emma move to the guest room, he asked her to help him choose new furniture for it. Together, they selected pieces that felt welcoming rather than intimidating, comfortable rather than formal. They picked warm colors and soft textures, creating a space that felt like Emma rather than like a hotel room. But more than that, Alexander asked Emma to help him make the entire house feel more like home for all of them. They rearranged furniture to create cozy reading nooks. They hung Emma's photographs alongside the formal portraits. They turned the formal dining room into a playroom where Sophia could explore safely. As they worked side by side, something shifted between them. The careful professional boundaries that had defined their relationship began to soften. Alexander found himself sharing not just his gratitude but his growing feelings. Emma, feeling truly secure for perhaps the first time in her adult life, allowed herself to acknowledge that her feelings for Alexander and Sophia had grown far beyond the professional. 6 months later, on a spring morning filled with birdsong and the scent of blooming roses, Alexander stood in that same kitchen where they had shared their pivotal conversation. But this time, he wasn't alone. Emma stood beside him, no longer as his employee, but as his wife. Sophia, now walking and chattering in the way of toddlers, clung to Emma's leg while reaching for her father. The storage room had been converted into a proper office for Emma, who had decided to start a consulting business for other families. Seeking childcare solutions, the guest room had become their shared sanctuary, filled with photographs that told the story of their unconventional journey to becoming a family. Sometimes, in quiet moments, Alexander would remember that night when he discovered Emma sleeping on the floor. He understood now that she hadn't been sleeping rough out of necessity, but out of a deep-seated need to protect herself from disappointment. By choosing the storage room, she had been choosing survival over hope. What he had done next, not just offering her better accommodation,